day 12 of the Herbally-Inspired Holiday Challenge. My name is Allison from the Well Cultivated Life, and I'm totally psyched for you to be joining me here. We're kind of wrapping up our gift ideas and our decor ideas this week, and we'll be getting into doing some more culinary things starting Monday. But today, I just quickly want to go over some more ideas for how you can use both herbs and natural materials for decorating your home. But before I start, I want to show you our card of the day. And the card of the day is rose. And I know we started with rose. And one of the cards that I had drawn was rose for gratitude and being grateful for the plants that supply us with all of these wonderful things. And this is a different card. And the reason why I chose rose again is because we were talking about rose buds. And today we're going to be talking about rose hips, which are such a wonderful medicine from the rose, as well as using the flower petals and the buds. So this is the card from Lisa Esterbrook's Soul Flower Plant Spirit Oracle deck. This is just the most gorgeous paintings. I highly recommend getting this deck. So this is her beautiful card, and let me read what it says. She's a flower essence practitioner, so a lot of hers has to do with sort of the flower essence messages from these cards. And it says, the word for rose is joy. And I love that because what we are trying to do here is, yesterday, I got a little serious about making your own medicine and how important it is to, take your own health into your own hands. And then, but truthfully, we're doing this because we love it, right? We love the plants, we love the scents, we love the smells, we love the taste that we get from working with plants and creating all of these beautiful concoctions and medicines and just things that help us to bring more joy into our life because they enrich all of our senses. So she says, rose is comforting and soothing, infusing your heart and soul with gratitude and joy, and helping you to stay centered and loving to yourself and others when it is needed most. A rose reminds you to be open to the sweetness of life and supports your personal growth, whatever the conditions surrounding you may be. So again, there's that beautiful painting, and I love how she's got the rose hips and the rose flower. And this is most likely like where I live, there's the Rosa rugosa, I think is the kind of wild rose that grows around here. On the beaches, some people call it beach plum. And a lot of people will collect the rose hips and make it like a beach plum jam. But you can go out and collect any kind of rose hip. And today we'll be talking about this. And I'll be using, okay, just so you know, like my entire kitchen floor is covered with material here. So this is Floribunda rose. It's another wild. Some people call it kind of an invasive species. It's got these little teeny tiny rose hips on it. And these are wonderful for decorating because we all want that sort of red berry, that beautiful red color to add to our decorations. Now, the rose hip itself is very good mostly because it has high vitamin C content. And if you do collect your own rose hips, one of the things that's recommended is that you cut them in half and you take out the seeds on the inside, because the seeds have these little hairs on them, and apparently that can be irritating to some people. I have bought them all broken down and seeds removed. I've bought the whole rose hips. I haven't personally had any problem with it, but if that's something that you think you might be sensitive to, or you know someone, then you might want to remove the hairs from your rose hips before you dry them. The beach plum roses are big. The rose hips are big. And so I was able to find some of those growing down. I live close to the seacoast area in New Hampshire. So luckily I was able to find some growing and harvest them this year. So I've got a lot of things to show you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about rose hips. I think it's something most people are familiar with. I've got a rose hip, cinnamon, and orange peel honey going right now. And I've been taking that regularly because not only is it healthy, it's also delicious. So rose hips are sort of plant medicine of the day. And so let's get started. I want to start off by pointing out our sort of final kitchen wreath, herbal kitchen wreath that I kind of pieced together over the week with all the different types of plants that we talked about. We started out with thyme. We talked about creating these little bouquet garni, which is just a little bundle of spices that you could put on, and you could have all your take off one bundle at a time for your cooking, whatever meal you were making. And then we added the garlic, and I have wired this garlic head on here so that you can take off one clove at a time. Next, we talked about the conifers and the white pine here, how that makes a great syrup, and it's also just a great flavoring if you wanted to throw it into any kind of a sauce. We added the orange peel, oranges being very good for just digestion and any kind of mucous membrane type of thing, especially when there's a lot of too much phlegm going on. You can use orange peel, throw that into a tea, or like I just said, I had it in the honey. And then we added in some peppers. Cayenne pepper would be ideal, but if you don't have those, I literally just got these from the grocery store. This bag of mixed peppers. And we added those on to get that beautiful red color that everyone likes. And then today, I'll take some rose hips. And I'll put some rose hips on there as well. And then I'll have my culinary wreath. Now, speaking of the peppers, here is another great idea of how you could use those. And I looked at I actually sent my son to the grocery store to get the peppers. And he came back with this bag with these 3 different colors. Sometimes you'll see orange peppers. And I thought, wow, that would make a really nice garland. So stringing anything together to make a garland is another wonderful way to use food and natural materials for decorating around your house. Here I could intersperse this with some cranberries if I wanted to, and any other types of materials that I get from outside. I have the dried orange circles that you could put on there. You could dry apples, put those on, and of course the ever famous popcorn that a lot of people used to use for stringing and decorating their tree back in the past. So that's another idea. Just what's nice about the garlands is you don't need a bunch of different types of things. You could string one thing and it still looks nice. So let's see here. I have just, I'm not going to be building a whole bunch of things today. I'm really here hopefully just to give you some ideas and inspire you to go out, if you haven't already, to do some wild crafting, grab some stuff out of your yard, and just create a bouquet. So this, if you remember from day 2, when I talked about the supplies and my Goodwill foraging trip, where I found this cool metal vase here. It's kind of like a pitcher. Here's an example of where I went out yesterday, again, into my yard, and across the street there's this little baby hemlock tree that's starting to just kind of came up randomly along the drainage ditch. And I went out to cut some pieces of that. So what you can do is, rather than having to make a whole wreath, you can simply just make an arrangement of greens. And so when I went out, as I'm walking over there, I thought, wouldn't that be cool if I could also find some bittersweet, which is a horribly invasive vine that attacks and just kills other trees. But it was originally planted because it has these beautiful, really cool fall berries. And sure enough, I get out to the hemlock tree. I don't know if you can see this or not. And there's bittersweet growing on it. It's already twisted completely around the hemlock. And I thought, well, I guess I'll cut that branch. And so there was the bittersweet already on there. You can see this kind of big sprig coming off the side as well. And so I figured I'd just leave it in there. So what I've done here is I've just cut some sprigs, some side branches, never cut off the head of your tree, and put them in here. And what I've done is I've taken some of these. Now, you can, in making floral arrangements and bouquets, a lot of times what you'll see is they'll use that green foam that you can stick all the bottoms of the stems into. But that stuff is, like, styrofoam is one of the worst types of plastic that you can use for the environment. So I try to stay away from that. So what I did instead was I just have a whole bunch of these reusable marbles. And I put some marbles in the bottom of this container here so that when I put my stems into it, it just kind of helps keep everything upright. And now I can continue adding to this whatever I want. And I could add in, here's some ideas. This is some azalea. It's just a piece of azalea that in the wintertime, it turns this really awesome kind of bronzy red color. And so I can add that in to my arrangement as well, if I want to. And the other thing I cut was, any of these other kinds of broadleaf evergreens. If you live someplace like in the Pacific Northwest, there's so many things that stay green all winter long, or even in other more milder parts of the country than where I live, we have a lot of things that stay green. So this is a rhododendron. And so if I wanted to have more of like a broadleaf type of a arrangement, I could add that in as well. One thing to bear in mind with some of these flowering shrubs, you can see right here, some of them will set their buds for the next year at the end of their growing season. And so if you go in and cut off a whole bunch of rhododendron stems for decorating, you won't have any blooms next year. So just be mindful of that. And if there's a particular shrub in your yard that you love how it blooms every year, then just make sure you do some research about when you should or should not be trimming it. And these things, I made I played around with an arrangement last year. Again, I'm just kind of putting these in here. This isn't my final arrangement, but played around with these last year, and I tried to do a dry arrangement, and it just did not come out very well. They shriveled up. Actually, the azalea lasted pretty well, but rhododendrons did not. So this is a wet. This has water in this one. And then next, what I want to show you is the types of things that you can put into a dry arrangement. So I've just started on this one, and here I have a vase with, again, I've put some decorative stones into the bottom of this to hold my plant material upright. I could probably stand to have more stones than this. This is what I had in the one jar I grabbed. So I went out to my yard, and I have some white birch trees, and it had dropped a couple of branches down on the ground. I didn't have to even cut anything off of my tree. So I found a couple of those, and they're not super white. All of these things that you are using, if you want to, let me show you an example. You can actually just get a touch of spray paint to whiten them up. This is an aster, dried up aster with seed pods on it. Let me see if you can see. I'll try to hold it still enough. You can almost see the little miniature flower heads right there. It's so cute. And I literally just sprayed this with some white spray paint. So now I can use this and add that in for sort of a snow-covered type of a look. I've also harvested, are you noticing that a lot of these things that I'm harvesting are actually invasive species? This is Japanese knotweed, which unfortunately our climate is changing to the point where it's now able to set seeds. I mean, the stuff is so invasive as it is. Now it's actually, we're getting later and later fall frosts. It's now even able to set seeds. Now, you can see why people planted it. Look at those beautiful seed pods on there. So here's another thing that I could use in my dry arrangement because it's already dried, and I could add that in. Other things that I found, I'm just going to show you some other things I found out foraging. So here are some echinacea seed heads. And these I have spray painted with some more like purplish, reddish kind of spray paint. And then a few other ideas. These. And last year, I haven't painted these yet, but last year I did these as well. This is bee balm seed head. And so this just grows in my garden, and I went out and cut some of those. These look really nice when you paint them. Bee balm. Other things that I've used in the past, again, I just collected these. This is goldenrod. So the goldenrod, see how it's starting to kind of put its little seeds out. Now it looks almost like it has snow on it. One recommendation I have is when you do go out collecting, make sure when you're outside, strip off all these little dead plants leaves while you're outside, because it makes a giant mess inside. Okay, so here's another plant that looks more white. I can stick that in if I want it. I'm going to use this in my arrangement. I would probably give that a quick coat of spray paint. And then the last one, well, I've got two different ones here. This probably should have been collected a little bit earlier in the year. This is Queen Anne's lace. It's gotten a little broken apart, but I've collected this in all different stages of seed head on it, and this one spray painted white looks awesome. It's awesome. So Queen Anne's lace seed heads, if those are around, that's pretty much grows everywhere. And then this last one, I don't know if it's is a wild evening primrose, and so it's got these really cool shaped little seed pods along the top. And I painted this last year. I did these in gold, and those came out really cool. So I think that's everything that's covering my floor. and so you get the idea. You can take, oh, let me show you one other thing. The other thing, and it might be too late to collect these for this year, even if you do have them, and that is the, this is a sumac. And a sumac is a kind of like a wild edible. You can collect them when they're fresh, and you dunk them into water for like 10 seconds, and it makes super nice, like natural lemonade. So here's a red something that I can put into my arrangement. Again, another kind of wild weed that I can harvest. I don't feel bad about it because it's kind of invasive, and I'm helping to keep it under control while also creating a bouquet out of it. So there are some ideas for creating a dry bouquet. And then I have just two more different ideas I want to share with you. I just quickly want to remind you that you can use any type of ring for making your bouquets. If you're really ambitious, you can start from scratch and just get something like this. The other thing is a lot of times you can go to just your local grocery store and get an undecorated, fir or some other type of evergreen wreath. And then you could bring that home and then add in all of the other food or other things that you want to add to it yourself. Okay. So the other thing I want to share with you is just swags. And a swag is basically just a bundle of greens with different things added onto it. So here, and I just put this together real quick. I'd probably rearrange this if I was going to actually keep and use it. So here is some of the extra hemlock plus some pine. And then I've taken my nicest rose hips and I've put those on. And then this is milkweed pods. And they are just the coolest. I just harvested these today. They're still a little bit wet. It's a little bit late in the season to be harvesting them. But what happens with milkweed pods, and this can be a good or a bad thing, is that the pods will open up and they'll gently release their seed. This is all wet, so you can't really see it, but it's like a big, it's designed to fly through the air. And so it's, similar to like a dandelion type of a setup. And so if you get some pods that are not quite fully open, as they gradually open, you will be releasing this beautiful white fluff. And again, that gives you the effect of snow. So if you do happen to have milkweed, don't take it all. Milkweed's a very important plant for, as you probably know, for monarch butterflies and for a lot of other creatures as well. So you want to make sure, as always, they're only harvesting small amounts and that it doesn't even look like you've even been there. So this is just a way you can make a teeny little swag, hang that up on your door or over your mantelpiece or any place like that. And this is all just made from little scraps of things from the other stuff that I made. So what I'll do here is I'll put some kind of ribbon or something decorative across the top like that. I might add in a pine cone or two just for the effect. And you don't need to have a whole bunch of different stuff to bring in that beautiful greenery that we all love to have in our houses this time of year. All right. Okay. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was creating a seasonal nature table. My kids went to a Waldorf school and I taught there for a while as well. And one of my favorite things about the Waldorf education is that they are so connected to the seasonal cycles of nature. And every classroom always had a space where they had the seasonal things that represented the change of the seasons. And what you can do, and this is especially any of you who have young kids at all, this is a wonderful habit to get into. And it's easy to do around this time of year as we're really wanting to bring more stuff from the world, from the outside into our homes and remind us of the greenery and the sort of abundance of nature. All you simply do is you just designate an area. It doesn't have to be very big. And then as you go outside, you would basically take maybe these things that I have put together in swag, and you would lay these around just in a space, and you would decorate it there, and you would maybe bring in some stones and any other, you might make these try to stand up and look like a little tree. You can always, you can always do extra painting and things like that with the pine cones. They're very versatile. And just create a little almost like an altar, I guess. It's not a religious thing. It's just again, a gratitude for nature, bringing this into our homes, setting it up. And then, of course, it's always nice to get some lights to go with that. You can get those electric candles. Those work great. Or you can just get, you know, a little miniature string of lights, a little battery pack on it, and so on. So if you have kids, I highly recommend it that you get in the habit of always having a nature table. And then as your kids go outside and they, you know, do you have a kid that, you know, like always has stuff in their pockets that they collected outside? Let's say you find a little bit of bark or a piece of moss, and those can get added to the nature table. And it's like a treasure. This is like a little treasure collection. So, and that's another way, especially this time of year, you can add these extra things to it. If you don't have access to greenery, if you live somewhere where that just isn't around, then use what you have locally, or you can go and support your local garden center, and they always have things like pieces of cedar, or holly is another great one. But what I'm trying to show you is that you can use just a little bit of creativity, the things growing outside just in your own backyard, and you will have everything you need to make your beautiful decor for the holidays. So I hope this was an inspiration for you, gave you some new ideas of things to do. Kind of went a little bit long today, which I knew we would because there was just so many things to show you. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about another idea for gifting using live plants. And then next, starting Monday, we'll be getting into all the sort of culinary creations that you can use for yourself and also for gifts as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, evening, day, whenever it is you're watching this. And let me know in the comments what kind of materials were you able to collect from your neighborhood. I look forward to seeing what you've done. So have a great night, everybody. Take care.